Britain had been plotting to destabilize the Ottoman Empire since the war began. Ottoman Turkey was Germany's ally in the Middle East. Her empire stretched across Arabia into the Hejaz, a vast desert area which included the holy cities of Medina and Mecca. Their loss would seriously undermine the Turks' standing in the Muslim world and boost Britain's. The British turned to the Arabs of the Hejaz, holding out the carrot of independence if they rose up against their Turkish masters.
If the Arab nation assist England in this war that has been forced upon us by Turkey, England will guarantee that no internal intervention will take place in Arabia, and we will give Arabs every assistance against foreign aggression.
The idea of Britain backing Arabian independence worried the India Office.
A strong Arab state might be more dangerous to Christendom than a strong Ottoman state. And Lord Kitchener's policy of destroying one Islamic state merely for the purpose of creating another has always seemed to me disastrous.
The India Office needn't have worried. Kitchener was playing a cynical game, never intending to hand real power to the Arabs of the Hejaz. But the British showered the Emir of Mecca, Sharif Hussein, with gold, and dropped hints that if all went well, he might realize his dream of becoming leader of the Arabs. On the 5th of June 1916, the Arab revolt began. Mecca quickly fell to the rebels, but the main Turkish garrison at Medina held its ground. The Turkish commander, Fahri Pasha, refused to surrender.
Until my soldiers are buried under the rubble of Medina, in a crimson shroud of blood and fire, the red flag of the Ottomans shall never be removed from the castle turrets of Medina.
The uprising commanded no popular support. But the British did have a man on the spot. T.E. Lawrence, a charismatic 28-year-old officer attached to Sharif Hussein's forces in the Hejaz. Lawrence spoke Arabic. He saw where the Arabs' strengths lay.
I think one company of Turks properly entrenched in open country would defeat the Sharif's armies. Their real sphere is guerrilla warfare. They would dynamite a railway, plunder a caravan, steal camels better than anyone.
The Turks were most vulnerable along their stretched lines of communication. Lawrence and the Arabs became experts in railway sabotage.
The last stunt was the hold-up of a train. The whole job took 10 minutes and they lost 70 killed. My loot was a superfine red Baluch prayer rug. I hope this sounds the fun it is. It's the most amateurish Buffalo Billy sort of performance.
A German on the train saw the attack differently.
The Bedouin mob came bursting into the carriage to kill and plunder. I could feel the blood pouring down my body, but I was left alone. The thieves' minds were drawn towards looting, having killed 40 men, women and children and taken the rest captive.
T.E. Lawrence adopted the cause of Arab nationalism.
I hope that the Turkish flag may disappear from Arabia. It is so good to have helped in making a new nation, and I hate the Turks so much that to see their own people turning on them is very gratifying.
Lawrence now dressed as an Arab. He asked his mother for help with his costume.
If that silk headcloth with the silver ducks on it, last used, I believe, as a tablecloth, still exists, will you send it out to me? Such things are hard to get here now.
Capturing Turkish-held Jerusalem was a key British objective in 1917. Seizing the port of Aqaba would strengthen the Arabs' case for a role in the campaign. Lawrence realized that all Aqaba's guns pointed out to sea. The town was defenseless from the rear. That meant a 600-mile ride across the Hejaz at the height of summer.
Mudflats are purgatory. Sun reflects from them like mirror, flame yellow, cutting into our eyes.
Seven weeks later, the Arab force reappeared outside Aqaba, catching the Turks totally off guard. The town fell just 4 days later. The Middle East was stunned. General Allenby, commanding British forces in the region, now wrote the Arab revolt into his Jerusalem campaign, reinforcing it with armoured cars, air support, artillery and colonial troops. On the 11th of December 1917, Allenby entered Jerusalem on foot with his officers, including Lawrence. The Arabs would find they had won not self-rule, but new masters. Lawrence had known all along that the Arabs of the Hejaz were merely the tools of British subversion, as he admitted long after.
The Arabs saw in me a free agent of the British government and demanded from me an endorsement of its written promises. So I had to join the conspiracy and assured the men of their reward. I was continually and bitterly ashamed. Had I been an honest advisor of the Arabs, I would have advised them to go home and not risk their lives fighting for such stuff.
And trouble was brewing with Germany's other main ally, Ottoman Turkey. Germany needed Turkey to hold the line against the British advance into the Middle East. But after 600 years, the Ottoman Empire was crumbling, and the British Empire was licking its lips. In March 1917, the British captured Baghdad. In December, they entered Jerusalem. The loss of both cities was a severe blow to Ottoman authority in the Middle East.
The words, "Jerusalem has fallen," spread like news of a death in the family. Jerusalem was in the hands of the English. How heroically the last Turks fought. We did not leave Jerusalem like the sons of Israel. We left it like Turks. Through the Mount of Olives, the evening shadows deepen and widen like a grave sucking in the whole of the Ottoman Empire. We now had to prepare our tears for Beirut, Damascus and Aleppo. Now we thought only of Anatolia and Istanbul. Goodbye to the empire and all its dreams and fancies.
British Army had it all. They had built roads, even pipes to distribute water to the troops. We did not have any clean drinking water. A flask full of clean water was sold for a gold coin on the Turkish side.
In Turkey, as with her allies, the situation on the home front was so desperate it threatened her capacity to wage war. Turkey hadn't known peace for 7 years. The First World War was just the latest and most terrible in a string of conflicts. Most able-bodied men were in the army, or wounded or dead. The land was impoverished, the people near breaking point.
An old farmer with a 7-year-old girl, his grandchild, came to see me. The child's father had died in Gallipoli and the mother had died as well. He begged me, for God's sake, take this child and save her from starvation and death. I took the child. Back in Istanbul, I discovered that almost all of my officer friends had taken in poor children like that from the villages of Anatolia.
General Mustafa Kemal, Turkey's future leader, warned that this was a recipe for national disaster.
There are no bonds between the government and the people. What we call the people is now composed of women, disabled men and children. For all alike, the government is the power which insistently drives them to hunger and death. Every new step taken by the government increases the general hatred the people feel for it.